German Chancellor Angela Merkel under pressure today to explain why the country was so unprepared for the devastating floods. So far, 197 people have been confirmed dead. The chancellor visiting the flood zone for a second time today to survey the damage as the hunt for around 200 missing people continues. NBC News global correspondent Raf Sanchez joins me now. So, Raf, let's start with the recovery efforts. We just talked about it, 200 people still missing. Where does the search for them stand right now?
Yeah, Lindsay, all week, German officials have been slowly, methodically whittling down that number of missing people. Last week, it was at above 1,000. Now it's at around 200. And I'd almost compare it to the situation after the Surfside condominium collapse in Florida, right? Florida authorities knew how many people owned property in that building, but that's not the same as knowing that those people were at home at the time the building collapsed. Similar challenge for German officials. They were trying to figure out who was actually in their houses at the time that the floodwater rose. Now, the waters have gone right down here in Western Germany, and that means police and other searchers for the first time are getting into places that were previously inaccessible, like flooded basements. We actually took a look at one of them earlier today. It was still full of mud, but you could get down into it. And Lindsay, of course, the worst fear for German families who are missing a loved one is that that person who is missing may turn up in one of these basement searches. Lindsay?
Yeah, that is really tragic to think about. Chancellor Merkel is under pressure to explain why Germany was so unprepared for these floods. Is that criticism fair, and how is she responding?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Germany has world-class infrastructure, and there are real questions about how this country was caught so off guard. The chancellor made her second visit to the disaster zone today. She said two things. One, that this was a historic level of flooding that would have been a major challenge under any circumstances. She has said previously that this is caused, or at least accelerated, by climate change. But she also, to a certain extent, held up her hands and said that her government, and bear in mind she's only in office for a few more weeks, does need to learn lessons from what happened here. There's a special focus on early warning systems for people in these flood areas. Now, some people did get warnings, but that's only if they signed up to the alert system. There was no universal Amber Alert style warning that went out to everybody in the area. The chancellor today suggested, possibly in a slightly offhand way, that maybe they need to return to old-fashioned air raid style sirens, where at least you know that everybody is going to hear those. Lindsay?
Well, and Raf, officials in Germany are warning that the efforts to find survivors, to find victims and clear this flood zone could become a COVID super spreader event. I mean, how are they trying to prevent a second catastrophe here?
Yeah, one German official today quoted as saying, for a family that's lost everything, they've thought of everything except wearing a mask. It doesn't seem like a priority when you're trying to salvage your home. There has been some discussion about rushing vaccines to the states here in Western Germany that are most affected to try to head off one of those super spreader events. I'll tell you, Lindsay, at the hotel we're staying at, there are around 200 residents of a nearby retirement home who have been moved here for safety. That means they're out of the way of the floodwater, but they are also now mixing with the general population. And of course, that is an elderly and vulnerable group of people who German authorities want to keep safe. Lindsay?
Yeah, and hopefully they do. All right, Raf Sanchez, thank you so much.